and welcome to Something for the Weekend with me, Kathie Griffiths.
Me, Ellis Butcher.
And me, Stephen Day.
Has the postman been yet?
Sadly not.
Ellis, are there sacks of cards awaiting at your door? Valentine's Day cards. It's Valentine's weekend. Hurrah, hurrah.
Hooray.
Let's all get excited.
Woo.
Ellis? Ellis has gone to his front door to see if there's any cards there. Here's the sound of his feet.
Roses are red, violets are blue. Thank God I'm no longer married to you.
We were never married, Ellis.
And neither are we.
That's my Valentine's Day message to the world.
Oh.
Oh.
How about you, Kathie? Have you had lots of men tramping to your door with cards?
Not yet, but there's plenty of time, Stevie.
Fair enough.
She says, peering out of the window. No one there yet.
I suppose in lockdown it's slightly different, isn't it?
Well, they can't come knocking at your door, can they?
No. And do the cards have to go into quarantine?
Probably. But I'll tell you something. Listen, this is a new thing on me. Have you heard of Valentines? There's a clue in it. Valentines.
No.
This is a thing amongst sort of girlies and all their lovely friends that they're sending each other Valentine's Day cards, but they call it Valentines. And this week, Millie had a delivery. That's my daughter. She had a delivery, a little box, and it was full of gorgeous things like tea bags and hot chocolate mixes and brownies and cookies from a friend down south. And I just thought that was so nice.
Oh, that's sweet.
I know. So there we are. New word for you.
See, I used to get in trouble because I was one of those blokes that used to say, I don't want anything for Valentine's Day. And then the other half would say, oh, I don't want anything for Valentine's Day either. And then after a while, we learn, us poor men, that that's actually code for women. I don't want anything for Valentine's Day. Doesn't mean I don't want anything for Valentine's Day. It means I'm going to get you something really small for Valentine's Day.
And then did you go into a sulk when you realised that you weren't getting anything either?
Not at
Shall
all.
we move on? Shall we move on?
Yeah, let's move on.
On. And it's a kind of Cupid's arrow of sorts, I suppose, because if you need an injection or a vaccine, it is a kind of offering of love, isn't it? So Cupid's arrow of sorts brings us on to something that you want to talk about, Ellis.
Cupid's arrow of sorts. So this is a link to an interview that I carried out with a woman called Michelle Wakerell, and Michelle is a hot topic at the minute, vaccinations and needles. Are you scared of needles? We'll find out more in my interview with Michelle. Well, this week I'm joined by Michelle Wakerell, and rather than me explain what Michelle does, I'm going to go straight to Michelle and ask her what she does. Tell me a bit about yourself, Michelle, and the business that you run.
Hi, Ellis. Yes. Well, I am a clinical hypnotherapist, a psychotherapist, and a counsellor, and I help people to make changes to live a better version of their lives. I see people for many, many different issues, and as long as people want to make a change can indeed be made. So all different presenting issues. At the moment, I'm seeing quite a few people that have a fear and phobia of needles. Obviously, it's all come to the forefront with the vaccine program that's being rolled out, and that's a little bit about me.
And what's the name? So, what's the name of this? There's an official title given to needle phobia, and it's quite a difficult one to get the tongue around. Really, it's trypnophobia, I think it is. Can you? I understand, Michelle, that this can affect up to 10% of the population, while around 20% of the population just have a general fear of dislike of needles, which obviously is going to cause a little bit of an issue with the requirement to have people vaccinated. What are the kind of tips, Michelle, that you would suggest to people in order to overcome that anxiety that they may have?
Okay, Alice. Well, firstly, well done pronouncing it, because I struggle quite often to pronounce it correctly. That was grand. As for tips, there are lots of self-help tips that people can use. It's anxiety around anything is looking at something as we know it's going to happen in a certain way. And with anxiety, we tend to look at it happening in a very negative way. So firstly, visualization, positive visualization, as opposed to creating a negative scenario. Deep breathing is very, very good at bringing anxiety levels down. Breathing in for 7, in through the nose, and breathing out for 11. And those numbers are very important, because in using those numbers, which are quite long breaths in and out, however, in doing that, we release chemicals from the brain and we naturally relax. So deep breathing, brilliant, but 7-11, even better. When you're actually having the injection itself, it's distraction techniques. So good idea to let whoever is doing the vaccination know that you have a fear, because they will be very caring, knowing that and understanding. And when you're actually having the injection, it sounds obvious. Firstly, don't look, divert your attention away from it. Perhaps take music in earphones. Yeah, with the phones, we can put music on, we can listen with our earphones. Or again, visualization in your mind, take yourself somewhere really lovely, somewhere completely different, because our subconscious doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. And if we imagine we are somewhere very relaxing and very comfortable and somewhere where we feel very safe and secure, that will have a knock-on effect and allow us to relax a lot more. So there's some tips there that would help people if they do have this. Phobias are obviously much stronger than fears. A fear is when we really don't like something. A phobia is when we really, really are not going to have it done. And phobias can be incredibly debilitating. Probably best to try and see someone if you do have the phobia, because it can be overcome without a shadow of a doubt.
Have you noticed, Michelle, you're based out at Dalmally, and you deal with people effectively kind of around the world, because a lot of it can be done now over the computer. Have you noticed an increase in people that are coming to you and saying, I've got real fear about having the COVID vaccination?
Yes, absolutely, Ellis. I've had many people approach me in the last 2-3 weeks with this fear, some phobias. And people, the thing is, if it's that debilitating, it may stop people going ahead and having an injection of any sort. And in this particular incident, we're looking at vaccination, which is imperative. So people are looking at a way to overcome it. If they don't find a way to overcome it, it could be something that holds them back from going ahead. And quite often, if people do have a fear of injections and a phobia, as I say, which is even bigger, they will do anything they can to avoid that situation. They will even, not go for routine blood tests, etc., because they just do not want to be confronted with it. So it can be very debilitating.
Can be a real issue, can't it? And so I understand from what you have said that actually a person's fear of needles relates effectively to how they perceive that experience, what they think about that experience. They immediately think it's going to be negative or it's going to hurt them. Where does that start? Is that something that has happened to them in the past, perhaps, that comes back to haunt them later?
Yeah, most fears and phobias, Ellis, will come from usually childhood, and they will either be due to something that we've experienced, or we've learnt. A lot of phobias, for example, are learnt from parents. Not all phobias, but a lot of them are. We see our parents, which is the authoritative figure, react in a certain way to a certain trigger, and it's something that we as children take on board. So, we do learn by watching in those early years, and we also learn through experience. And it's always a child's perception that experience is being taken from. So we're not able to analyse as an adult. Children don't analyse really anyway. They just take it on board. And if it's something that appears scary, it's something that's taken on as scary. And then different things perhaps will feed that as we go on through life, and it gets bigger.
I see. Is there any final points that you'd want to make? Probably points is the wrong description to use, isn't it? But how are you with needles yourself as an individual?
Yeah, I'm absolutely fine. I have no problem with needles at all. I don't particularly like looking at anything being put into my arm, so I just look away, but I don't have a fear, and I certainly don't have a phobia. I'm very lucky in that respect, but people that do, it is a very difficult, and it's important for people around them as well to not brush it off and say, not be silly, because it's not being silly. Yeah, absolutely. It's something that's very, very real to them, as are all fears and phobias. It just so happens at the moment, in the present climate, needles is something that we are needing to kind of get our heads around and be able to go ahead with. Yeah. So just to recap then, really the advice is that try not to think about it as a negative experience. Let the person that's going to be, or the surgery that's going to be doing the injection, know that you have a concern about needles, so that they respect that. But also remember the breathing, and try and put yourself in kind of imagine that you're not having an injection, but actually you might be on a beach somewhere. Absolutely.
Does that about cover it? And there is, of course, official professional help from the likes of yourself out there as well, isn't there?
Absolutely. There's many, many people that can help. So if it's something that you feel you need help with, there will be help out there for you, without a shadow of a doubt. That's
wonderful. Thank you ever so much, Michelle. Good to have you on the show.
Okay. Brilliant. Thanks, Ellis. Thank you.
What a great bit of advice. Well, lots of advice in there. That was really good.
Yeah, I've gone quiet because I'm thinking about needles now. Well, I have another little love story for you now, seeing as it's Valentine's Day. The Taj Mahal in India, Tunnelt, has its own memorial to love. It's 1,500 feet up a mountainside overlooking Tunnelt and the glorious Glen Etive. Now, this was built a couple of years ago as a project by a lovely chap called Sam MacDonald. He and his wife, his artist wife Evelyn, lived for many happy years down in the Tunnelt area, and they loved a story about two runaway lovers called Deirdre and Nisha, who ran away from an angry Irish king and hid out in Glen Etive. And it's just the most romantic tale, and they loved this story. Now, sadly, Evelyn got poorly and she passed away, but Sam had promised that he would work on something to so they could leave a legacy on the land of their sort of time in that area together. And the result was this amazing memorial, this shieling called Deirdre Shieling. And I caught up this week with stonework artist David F. Wilson, who worked on this project, and we had a little chat all about it. So listen in. Is this the most romantic project you've ever worked on?
Most definitely. The sort of project I usually get involved in is certainly in the last few years has been for housing developers, and there's not a lot of romance kicking right on these kind of sites. So yes, this is definitely the most romantic project I've been involved in. The whole kind of backstory to the theme and everything has just been, it's been a great thing to be involved in. Sadly, I never met Evelyn. She had passed by the time I got involved in the project. But having stayed with Sam for quite a while and gotten to know him really well over the project, and I kind of felt that I knew Evelyn and the type of spirit that she was.
And when you went up there for the first time, because this mountainside memorial, it's about 1,500 foot up, isn't it? Overlooking.
That's correct, yes.
When you went there for the first time, can you remember how you felt?
Oh yes, I mean those are kind of some of the most sort of memorable times for a project, when you're actually just first shown the site that you're being tasked or asked to look at, and it's it's just the most spectacular location. And again, one of the things that when you start looking at a project, sometimes it takes you a while to come up with some ideas, and it can be quite difficult trying to work out exactly what fits with the site and the location. But this project just seems to have went really beautifully right from the start, and I could almost see exactly what is actually there almost as I stood in front of that location. It just all came into my head, and within 2 or 3 days, I had it all down on paper, back up to Sam, and he kind of bought right into it. So, and it was quite an undertaking. So he did kind of really buy into what I was trying to achieve up there.
Can you just paint a picture for us? Can you just describe, for those people who haven't been, who haven't made the trek up there yet? I'm sure they'll all go in the droves once they've heard this and seen the story that we're running in the Oban Times. But can you just describe what people will see if they go up there, the actual memorial itself?
Okay, so you walk up from the sort of B road that leads out from Tainall, and you park down at the bottom of what is a haul road up to the wind farm, which is about 3.5 miles up. And it's up through a beautiful kind of location. And you kind of get up to the top peak of Ben Glass, and there are uninterrupted views for 360 degrees all across the mountains, right up to Glencoe, up Glen Etive, over Loch Etive, out towards Connell on the left-hand side. It's just, and Ben Cruachan is immediately to your right. It's just the most stunning location. Certain days that I was up there, you couldn't see anything, because the clouds close in, and you can barely see in front of you. But when the skies open and the blue skies break out, it's just stunning.
And the shieling itself, we've got. Do you want to just describe that for us? Because I know there's a Celtic bell there, and there's an amazing Celtic bench as well for people to sit on and take in all those views. But
okay, so I'll describe it right from the kind of start. So you come up the top of the road to the location, and we sighted 2 large standing stones as a kind of marker of the shieling in the landscape. And what I didn't want to do was to impose a sort of a structure into the landscape. I wanted it to kind of sit within the landscape, almost like it's always been there. So the standing stones mark where it is in the landscape. And we have then cut the shieling into the mountainside, so as it kind of nestles down into the space. So as you come up there, you don't actually see the shieling. It's kind of nestled within the landscape. So from the standing stones, there are a set of steps down into the shieling. And that's almost like symbolic of a transition from moving from one space into another. As you go down the stairs, the stone steps, which is enclosed with a stone wall on either side, there is a stainless steel ring with a bronze bell hanging from it. And again, why I placed that there was it kind of forced the audience, the people who were going into that space, to interact with the bell. I never felt that the bell should be off to the side. It was always, the bell was a kind of central component to the scheme. Then once you get down into the bottom, it's a kind of sheltered area that with the 2 wing walls that kind of enclose the area. They kind of and within one of the walls there is a sculpture which is based on Brancusi's Kiss, and that kind of represents Deirdre and Isha. And on the left-hand side, as you go down, there is also another bench, because I was very keen that there was various different kind of areas where people could perhaps get shelter within that space. Because once you've taken that trek, you want to kind of stop there, and it's a wind farm, so it's obviously quite kind of exposed and windy at various times. So and you're never quite sure which way the wind's going to come. So I was very keen to build into the space various different areas where people could kind of maybe perhaps rest and get out of the wind and look at the glorious views. And central to that internal space is a carved bench, carved basalt bench.
And the design, I haven't been up there. I went before work started, so I know I remember the view clearly because I'll never forget a view like that. But the bench itself, it must have been quite complicated to design.
Yes, I mean, it's one of these things that I could kind of see it. I wanted it to kind of be quite intricate and interconnected. I'm kind of interested in making things kind of difficult for myself. I like a challenge. So it's kind of like almost a section out of a Celtic kind of cross pattern. And it's made out of 14 different blocks of Scottish basalt. And I came up with the sketch very quickly. And then I had about over a year thinking about all the technicalities. And I was never 100% quite sure whether it was going to be successful. But that's kind of the risk that you take.
So how long did it start, from being involved in the project to it actually being completed? How long was it?
So it was completed over 2 years, just with my work schedule and sourcing some of the materials. So in the first year, I built the shieling, put in all the stairs, installed the standing stones, and we celebrated that with an opening. And then the following year, I then carved the bench across a period of a month.
And I know you took loads and loads of photographs, of work in progress and when it was finished. And you've just made a new video, haven't you? And that's on Facebook, is that right?
It's on Facebook and it's also on my website. Again, you take so many different photographs of a project as it's progressing, because it's a good way of recording it for yourself to remember every step that you went through. But I'm the only person that really gets to see them. So I haven't been playing about with iMovies, and I thought that might be a quite really good way to kind of record it, that other people might be able to share it. And then also, at the end of the project, there had been a special concert at Oban Cathedral where Mark John Bourquin and the Glasgow Wind Band performed his the Glan Mass and Tone poem. And again, I thought it was a beautiful piece of music that perhaps deserved to be shared and heard by a lot more people. And I thought the two might kind of work in really well together. And I think it's kind of come well together it's a kind of a starter project, iMovie project for me, but I think it records the project really well. And it gave me the opportunity to share some of Sam's story and some of the things that he'd kind of shared with me as I was kind of involved in the project. I thought that was worthy of recording as well.
So if people want to have a look at that, they can go to your website and your Facebook page, and also go on.
www.dfwilson.co.uk.
And it's going to go up on the Deirdre Sheeling website when that's relaunched, isn't it? That's
yes. And there is a Deirdre Sheeling Facebook page which people can connect into. There's previous photographs and links to the concert in Oban and things like that. And what would be great would be if people go up there, take the photographs, and then post their own photographs. That's ultimately what we really want. We want people to feel that that's their space.
And we're still waiting for a wedding, of course. We haven't had a wedding up there yet.
I think one had been kind of penciled in, but for various different reasons, it didn't quite go ahead. Yes. But we will not mention anything more about that.
Oh, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us. Really appreciate it.
No problem at all.
And David, happy Valentine's Day.
Okay, and to you too. Lots of cards through the post.
Oh, I hope. Bye.
Okay, bye.
What a great guy. He was totally 100% committed to that project. And it's if anyone gets the time, please look up this story of Deirdre and Nisha. It's just lovely. Of course, like most romance, it ends in heartbreak. But hey, there you go.
Well, that's gloomy. That's gloomy.
gloomy. Oh, so Alice, do you have a little bit of music for us?
I do. This is honestly, I heard this on Facebook, and it's from the Oban Gaelic Choir, and it's a beautiful new melody featuring the Gaelic singer Rachel Walker, fiddle by Joni Garvin, and the members of the Oban Gaelic Choir, who have all come together and filmed a morag, it's called. They've all been at home at the time. They've all done it by Zoom. You've got to listen to it. It's got over 200 comments on Facebook and more than 400 likes. Stevie, run VT.
I think this is fantastic. What do you think, Kathie?
It's beautiful. Just what I needed. All nice and relaxed now as I wait for the postie.
As you wait for the postie. We're running out of time, guys.
I think the crackles on that are all ours, I think. If you go to the Oban Gaelic Choir's Facebook page, you'll be able to hear an absolutely crystal clear version. So thank you for that.
Do we have a Scottish word of the week?
We could have a Scottish word of the week. Chickenelly.
Ooh.
Chickenelly.
Canelli. Sounds like something you might get from an Indian takeaway. It's part of your romantic meal for two.
It's not. Any ideas?
Okay.
Chickenelly and half chips,
No.
please.
It's a.
Chickenelli.
It's
No,
a.
I don't know.
It's a game as youngsters might have played when we were little. It's either knocking on people's doors and running away, or having a wee bit of thread with a wee tack on it attached to a window, where you just pull gently and it knocks the window from time to time. Really winds people up.
Stevie, you were just naughty when you were little, weren't
I
you?
was.
I've never done anything like that.
Of course,
ever.
of course, you haven't, Kathie.
Well, you know, that's.
I'm going to try it.
Alice?
I'm going to try
No,
it.
don't.
Don't-
Anyone
don't
gets
try.
strange tappings at your window over Valentine's night, it'll be Alice.
It'll be Alice.
Trying to get in.
It's a fat milk tray man.
And with that, we'll leave you with that. That's all we have time for this week. As always, we love hearing from you. So get in touch with your news, comments, photos, or even just to say hello by emailing us on somethingfortheweekend@obantimes.co.uk or contact us through the Oban Times Facebook or Instagram. You can read our stories online at www.obantimes.co.uk and you can subscribe to our page Turning Digital Edition there as well. So until next time, it's goodbye from me, Kathie Griffiths.
Goodbye from me, sweethearts, Ellis Butcher.
And goodbye from me, Stephen Day.
Happy Valentine's!
Bye.
Bye.